Today, as a reminder, we have different folks here from the special education department to talk about accessing various curriculum in order to support our students during this time when it comes to distance learning. We appreciate the various people that are here today to provide all this resource information. And then we can click on the next one. Very quickly, I see some of you are asking some questions via the chat. We're excited to see that as well. Within this, you'll see different titles. You'll have myself, who I'm the moderator. I work in parenting engagement and sending this information to you all. As well, you also have, in this case, Hillary Talmadge, who works as a program specialist. Lindy Rasmussen, that works as a teacher in special assignment. Anthony Hurston, and Jennifer Sadie, and Shelby Wisdom, that work as a behavior intervention coordinators, and they'll probably talk a little bit more about their work and how they're supporting our students and families during this time. And as I mentioned before, we have Paul Barajas, our Spanish interpreter, as well today. Can you go to the next one, Anthony? Really quickly, just as a heads up, for families, if you have any questions, please send those questions via the Q&A. That will send it directly to our panelists, or you can also send it within the chat, and we'll be able to provide a lot of the feedback on the questions that some of you have provided within the Q&A or the forms that you use to RSVP. And as you see, this is more of a webinar training, so you won't be able to, you'll see us communicating and sharing all this information for you all. And we appreciate you for being here today. Really quickly, there's 3 different helplines that you can see. One is, for example, as you see there, for families that are having issues when it comes to accessing technology, you have the IT support line. In this case, either via email or phone call. They'll be able to support you as far as resetting passwords or providing more information and supports when it comes to the Chromebooks or technology that was provided by the school district. We have our support line there Monday to Friday from 12:30 to 3:30 for questions that you have when it comes to distance learning for your students. You also have the message line, you can leave a message as well. And thirdly, you have the student services staff and provide information on enrollment when it comes to work permits, when it comes to intra and intra-district transfer agreements, and when it comes to a lot of services that they provide for our families. So these 3 different lines are there to help with providing information that if you have any questions to reach out to. And with that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to put myself on mute, and I'll let we'll start with their introductions, and we'll start.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lindsay Rasmussen. I am a teacher on special assignment for special education. I'll briefly be going over today's agenda, but first of all, thank you so much for joining us. We're really looking forward to this time and connecting with you. Our first thing we will be discussing is accessing unique curriculum through the lens of distance learning and online. Afterwards, we will have a unique Q&A, and then the second portion will be our behavior team reviewing behavior bits, and then going over, we'll have the opportunity for a time to have a Q&A, questions and answers for behavior. And then I'll be having Ms. Talmadge monitoring all of our chats. So if for broader questions, we will answer it at the end with the Q&A, but if they are relevant to what I'm currently speaking on and it makes sense, then Ms. Talmadge may be interrupting me giving that question, and then I'll follow up with it. Next slide. Okay. So I'm going to go over a brief overview of unique learning systems. So unique curriculum is our district board adopted curriculum for our Bridge and our RISE classes, so our students who are participating and enrolled in those classes. Overall, unique is standards-based, and it's specifically designed for students with special needs. All the lessons are customized for each individual student at their own instructional level. Here is one of the more unique parts about unique is that the curriculum may be taught through printed materials, hands-on, as well as an interactive document, which I'll be speaking more to about today. But just in the overall sense, are, oh, sorry, I saw that thing. Just overall, it's able to be accessed online as well as printed out materials. So in the traditional sense in the classroom, a lot of our teachers would actually print out materials, laminate them, and have hands-on learning with our students in small and large group or individual settings. But again, in the interest of today, for at-home learning with Unique, it will be accessed through the student's individualized account online. All right, so the main thing we'll be discussing today is our interactive document, otherwise known as the iDoc. So a few components of this would be overall text-to-speech. We'll have interactive components such as the drag and drop and text entry. You have the availability to zoom in and out and kind of customize how you're viewing your screen in the lesson. And then you also have the Go menu, which allows you to access multiple activities and different visuals depending on the support needs of that lesson. I'm going to move this over. So this is your go-to. This is called the navigation bar. And the first button, and this is a brief overview, and then the rest of my slides will be following up and going a little more into detail. But Go, that's where you are going to be accessing different activities within the lessons and different visuals that will support the lesson. Second, you will see the view button. And so again, that allows you to kind of manipulate your screen and view the lesson as you would like it, either larger or smaller. The arrows will be moving you to, going to the previous page on the left area or to the next page for the right arrow. And then also you have the speak options to read the entire text of that page aloud to you. All right, so as I mentioned, the Go menu. So this is kind of your biggest bang for your buck. You're going to get a lot of access to different activities, different vocabulary cards, different communication boards as well. And I can show you all of this if we have the opportunity for me to screen share later. It also goes through the standards connection and gives additional activities or how it actually relates to the standard. I got ahead of my notes, I apologize. So this component is our text-to-speech, which is very valuable to most of our students accessing the curriculum. So you can either take your cursor or your finger, if you have the touch screen, and touch on the text and it will read aloud. And then you also, as I mentioned, you have the option to go down to where the arrow to the right is, and that is your speak button. So if you click on that, it will automatically read the entire page, so you don't have to manually go in and click every single text. And you also have the option to stop with the stop speaking button, and it will discontinue all the reading of that text. Okay. So here is overall adjusting the screen. So to your top left, this is our zoom, so it allows you to zoom in and out of the document. And then you also, to your bottom left, have the ability to have the height and width fit to the page. On the right-hand side, this is the pan feature. So this allows you to manipulate your screen and adjust the lesson to what you just want to see. So many times we're using this if something's very distracting for a student or you want them to focus in on just where it says the author. You can actually either zoom in or you could go and pan the screen and move it so your visual field is less. All right, and then if you do not want to navigate via your screen, then you have the option of using your keyboard. So here are all the shortcut keys. So if you go over to your arrows, up will be zoom in, bottom arrow will be zoom out. To the left, you will have going to the previous page. To the right, you go to the next page. And then what is also nice, if it is distracting to your students, having the nav bar up, or if they are clicking around and you don't want them to click around and move around the lesson and you're trying to facilitate it, you can hit the tab button on your keyboard and that will hide the navigation bar. And then as soon as you want it up again and you need to access something different, you just press tab again and it will get you right back in there. And then at the very bottom, the space bar, that also allows you to have the text read aloud. All right, so this is the interactive activity part of it. So this is really where we are checking for understanding and seeing what the student knows and what they learned from the assignment or the lesson. So here you have one of the ways it might be if we were doing a comprehension question, it might just be that choice selection. So on the right-hand side, where a student just goes in and either clicks or touch screen the answer that they believe is correct, their selection. And then for some of our more advanced learners, or sometimes if an adult is with the student and facilitating, they can do, there's opportunities to do a text entry where you're actually typing in the answer to the keyboard. A lot of times for some of our activities, if we're doing a book review or questions about it, a story review, the teacher or parent will go in and they will type in the text or type in the author, type in the book title, and then the student will actually go through and answer the rest of the questions. To the right-hand side, whenever you see that target, see that blank box with the target, if you click on that, that's gonna open up an array of symbols to choose from as your selection. And so here, the student can either drag and drop it in, or if you just click on, for example, if I just clicked onto Mayor, it would automatically go in. All right, so I feel like I covered a lot of information very quickly.
So I did have some questions. The first question wasn't necessarily about Unique, but it was in regards to continued Zoom sessions or services over the summer. Since I'm not familiar with all the individual services and cases for all of your students, I would recommend that if you wanted suggestions for maintenance of goals over the summer, to reach out to your student's case manager and ask them for suggestions, or if they're able to supply maybe some materials over the summer. If you're not sure about who to contact, I'll put my email in the box, and you feel free to send me a personal email with your student's name, and I would be more than happy to connect you with the person that you need to connect with. And then also there was a question about a link to this presentation. Mr. Soto, are you able to provide a link to the website on Twin Rivers? I believe that you will be posting these after it's done.
Just very quickly, what typically we'll do is usually we'll send a presentation for those that have participated or joined this webinar. And then we also post it on the district website as well within the family engagement sections. And so those information will be sent out to families as well.
And I so far don't have any other questions or answers regarding Unique. So if they come up at the end of, if we have time at the end of the behavior section, Lindsay and I would be more than happy to answer those. But I think we could probably move on to the behavior piece.
All right, you guys. So now we are going to jump into the behavior bits portion of this webinar. This is going to be reviewing an online resource that the behavior team has created. These are going to be videos on how to apply the science of behavior, and you can access these by going to youtube.com, and then you're going to want to go into the search bar and type behavior bits. Subscribe to the channel, and then you can pick through a bunch of different videos that we've created. In the coming slides, we'll review with you some of the videos that you're going to be able to access. But this is a really great resource if you're at home and you're not really sure, why your child may be engaging in behaviors and what can we do to change that. This is a great resource for you to utilize. Okay. All right, so the first video that we're going to cover is functions of behavior. So the purpose of this video is really looking at helping you guys determine why your child may be engaging in some challenging behaviors. It's aiming at helping kind of identify the 4 different functions of behavior And then it walks through how you can determine what the function is. So it kind of gives a step-by-step, these are what we need to do to find the function of behavior, and then it outlines what needs to be done to change challenging behaviors. Next, we have visual support. So this video is learning how to best design and implement visual schedules for your child. So this video, you can kind of see why you want to use a schedule, how do you develop a schedule, and then it gives you some different options for the different types of schedules you might want to use, because we know not one schedule is going to work best for each family. You guys might want to use different types. Next, we have reinforcement versus bribery. So the purpose of this video is learning the difference between reinforcing your child for good behavior versus bribing your child into good behavior. So this is looking at what are the key differences between reinforcement and bribery. It breaks it down further by giving different scenarios of what each one looks like. And then it outlines some tips for you guys to utilize if your child's behavior is still not improving. Next, we have reinforcement versus punishment. So this is helping learn to identify what reinforcement is versus punishment. So it gives the key difference for each and it defines it, and then it provides some scenarios just to help break it down further. All right, and then oh, sorry.
No worries. Hello, I'm going to take over from here and talk to you about the rest of the videos we have to offer. Our next video you'll find on our YouTube channel is coping strategies. The purpose of this video is so that you understand understanding and learning the many different coping strategies to help decrease undesired behaviors and reduce stress. This is a great video for just general everyday use. We're all getting used to this new environment and distance learning. And there's a bunch of tips and strategies we can use to kind of keep the stress level at a minimum and help students as they cope with all of the changes that we're currently experiencing. We also have a video on token boards, and that goes right along with our reinforcement videos. When you are looking at the videos, you'll learn a lot about reinforcement, and then the token board videos is how to put some of that you've learned into place. Token boards are a very common tool we use to reinforce our students and increase their motivation to learn. There are several different types, and the video will cover the 3 most common types that we use within the district. It goes over specifically how to use a first then board, how to use an individual star chart and when to use it, and a kind of more advanced checklist token board. So all of that is available on our token board videos. One of our newer videos is structure, and you might want to start there. It's really about how to structure the home environment for distance learning. So we pull in a bunch of the techniques we use in the classroom to help you structure your home and your student for success. We discuss how to build the most valuable, that's not the word I want to use, but I can't think of it, but how to build the best workspace for your child at home, how to put routines into place, and strategies and tips on how to provide your students with rewards or reinforcement. Creating a workspace. Honestly, it's just build the best workspace you can at home. We all have a different household and different resources at home. And so it'll provide tips on just how to pull what you have available to you together to make the best workspace possible. Same thing with establishing a routine. It goes over specific strategies on how to set expectations and create a daily schedule that'll help minimize a lot of the challenging behaviors you might be experiencing. And then, of course, some tips on how to reward your student. And those are the basic videos that we have out there for you and available at this time. We have a backlog of lists, catalog that we're working on putting out to you, but we would really love your input on what you think would be helpful to you. So feel free to reach out to us by commenting on the channel or sending a tweet or Instagram, however you can get in contact with us. We have all of our social media there. Send us your ideas or even put them in the chat here, and we'd be happy to get those videos out to you as soon as we can.
Anthony, really quick, just because we have someone asking, how do we find the YouTube channel? It might be beneficial at this time if we do a walkthrough on.
Yeah, let me see
Perfect.
if I can bring up a screen. Can you see that Zoom screen there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So to access the YouTube channel, you just type YouTube into the search bar, and hold on one second. Let me do that. There we go. And once YouTube loads, in the search bar for YouTube, you can type behavior bits, and it'll bring you up to the B logo, and you click on behavior bits, and it has all of our videos there for you. You click the subscribe button right here, and you'll get click this little bell, and you'll get notifications every time we post a new video, so you can be notified when there's new videos out there for you to use.
And then it also looks like we have some time. Did we want to maybe play one of them? I know the structuring your home is a pretty short video, so if there's no other questions,
Yeah,
we could potentially just play one.
sure. Let's see if we can find that one. I hope the audio is coming through.
I can't hear the audio.
1 second. And our first tip is build the best. Could you hear the audio then? Is the audio playing now? Okay, I'm gonna start it over. Sorry, guys.
You're watching Behavior Bits.
So your kids are home now, like all the time, but they still have to learn. So how can we structure your home for distance learning? We've put together 3 steps to success: workspace, routines, and rewards. Let's review. The first step is to create a workspace. And our first tip is build the best space you can. We all live in different places and have different things in our homes. Just arrange an environment and pick a space that works best for you and your child. Build the best space you can. When selecting your workspace, you want to consider a place that's quiet, comfortable, and dedicated. You don't want it in a high traffic area. You want your child to feel comfortable working there, and you want a dedicated space so they have that routine and expectation of where they go to do their work. You also want to make sure the space is well organized. Before they sit down to start their work, make sure they have everything they need to complete their assignments. Gather all their materials together and put them in one spot that's easy for them to reach. Don't forget a snack. And lastly, you want to make sure you're considering your child's preferences. Not everybody is comfortable doing their homework at the kitchen table, Perhaps they'd be better sitting on the floor in their room. If that's the case, as long as it's quiet, comfortable, dedicated, and organized, that'll work as well. Our next step to success is establishing a routine. To establish a routine, create a daily schedule. Right? When you're creating your schedule, allow time for brain breaks and movement activities. The frequency of these breaks will be determined by your student's age and their abilities. Generally, elementary students can work for 15 to 30 minutes before they need to break. As your student gets older, junior high or high school, they can work for longer periods without a break. Once you've established that routine, make sure you check in throughout the day with your students, and don't forget to praise them for being on task. Once you've established your daily schedule, you want to set some expectations. We like to use CHAMPS: conversation, help, activity, movement, participation, and success. So, conversations. What should conversations look like while they're working? Are they allowed to talk to their siblings? You want to set that expectation up from the start. Help. How should they get help? For me, my rule is make sure you've asked your brother for help before you come to me. Activity. Activity they should be really clear about if we have a daily schedule. They should know what they're working on and when to work on it. Movement. What type of movement is allowed during work activities? Are they allowed to get up and go stare out the window? Are they allowed to walk around their room and read? Are they allowed to walk around the house while they're working? Where should they be and what movement is allowed? Participation. What does it look like to be participating? For example, if the activity is silent reading, participation should look like eyes on the book in a quiet room. What participation doesn't look like is book in your laps while you stare around the room or watch TV. Make sure you're checking in on them and letting them know if they're succeeding. What success looks like is following all the expectations and completing the work assignment for that activity. Our last step to success is scheduling in reward time. Decide how often your child will receive a reward for their hard work. How often they should receive an award, again, will depend on your child's age and ability. Some children need a reward after every activity they complete. Others can complete half of their work and get a reward, and then the other half and get a reward. And some can complete it all before they receive their reward. It really depends on their age and ability. When selecting a reward, you want to make sure you set the deal early. Let them know what they're working for and when they're going to achieve that goal. Make sure that the reward matches the work or effort they put in. Ideally, your student would work for 20 or 30 minutes and receive a 5 or 10 minute break. You don't want it the other way around, where they work for 5 minutes and receive 20 minutes of a break. You should also make sure that you choose a reward that can be given immediately. Once they've completed all their assignments and checked everything off, they're able to access what they've earned right away. And lastly, we want to make sure we limit access to the reward. Rewards can be very effective motivators to getting your work done, but if you have constant access to it, they're just not that effective. So try to reserve the reward you choose for work activities only. Maybe their favorite Netflix show is only available to be watched during their reward time after completing their work. That's it. If you can build a workspace, establish a routine, and build in those rewards for your child's hard work, you're well on your way to maximizing their success during distance learning. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to click the links below for some of our other videos.
Thanks for watching Behavior Bits.
All right. So that's one of the options that we have available for you. And while that was going on, we had some questions in the chat that I think were somewhat answered by the video we watched. One was, and I'm going to paraphrase, how to increase motivation at home and keep your students learning and engaged. And I think reinforcement and rewards are the best way to do that. You could watch the token board videos, the reinforcement versus bribery videos. Both of those would be great resources for you in setting that up. At the end of the token board video, there are a bunch of links to some token board templates that you guys are able to download and print out. So that resource is available as well. Were there other questions?
There were some other questions that I would like to respond to. So one of the questions was, will students with special, if distance learning continues in the fall, will students with special needs have extra resources to be used on the Chromebook or a live pencil paper tasks, I'm assuming? So I think that we are not quite sure what the fall will look like, but what I would like to reiterate is all of our students are have very individualized needs. So the team would have to take a look at what goals the student has and what they need, and then based on that, work on those and provide any additional resources as needed. So it's hard to answer that question as a whole blanket for our student population because we know that they each have individual needs. So I would reach out to your students' team if you have specific concerns in the upcoming year and once we know what that will look like. There's also a question about building speech, vocabulary, and comprehension. All of our students also have different learning styles and needs when it comes to building speech. So I would reach out to your child's speech and language therapist and ask how you could do that within the home and carry that over into the summer months, because we know that no two students learn in the same way or the same strategies necessarily work for any two students. And then Lindsay, maybe we should tag team on this. We had a question about access to Unique, so to students who are not currently using it. Melissa had a question about her students used to use it when they were in more of a mod severe classroom setting, and now that they're in a more mild mod, they don't have access to it. So she wanted to know if there would be a possibility of having access to that in the future. Are you there, Lindsay?
Sorry.
Sorry.
Our students who are in our Bridge and our Rise, like I mentioned, this is the board adopted curriculum for our more moderate severe placements. At this time, our mild mod classes or students in that eligibility do not have access to Unique. They are using the general ed curriculum and then having it modified and pared down for them to address their individual needs, and then also additional intervention questions or intervention curriculum. But if you have further questions with this, you may want to reach out to, potentially your case manager or program specialist. Because again, like Hillary or Ms. Talmadge had said, every student learns at a different rate. It's all individualized. And so we are entering a time and in a time right now that we have never been before. So it does look differently. So if you are still concerned about that, I would encourage you to reach out to your case manager or program specialist.
And to piggyback off that, I would kind of note what you liked about the Unique curriculum and what worked for you, and possibly your case manager may be able to recommend a piece of the current curriculum your students are using that could carry over into the summer months that you would be able to use.
We had one more question. It was about what are the best behavioral tactics for a child with mild to moderate special needs. There are a bunch of behavioral tactics that might be useful, unfortunately without the specifics of your child, because again, like we all said, every child is different. Every behavior has its own function. And that's actually where I would suggest that you start. We have the functions of behavior video. If you review that video and try to apply those tactics and figure out what the function of your child's behavior is, then go through and watch the reinforcement and then possibly the token board videos. I think those 3 videos will get you off to a great start. If you need any help with that or have any concerns, again, reach out to your case manager, and they should be able to provide you with some resources and some tips that are more specific to your student. I think that's all the questions we have.
If
We have
anyone,
time.
oh, sorry. If anyone is interested, you can mention in the chat. I'm happy to stay behind and do a screen share and go through more unique features or answer any questions you have in accessing it.
You can do that right now as well. Just screen share on your end.
All right, well, if you're interested or not, we are going to check it out. So I have pulled it up. Okay, give me one moment. All right, so you're gonna go to n2y.com. I'm sure many of you who have been accessing this are very familiar. We're signing in under students. And this actually just automatically logged me in because I was just in it about an hour ago. So to access unique curriculum, it is the orange snowflake. All right, so right now I have access to all of the lessons. This might not be as many lessons as you are seeing in your current view because it depends on what the teacher has put and given you access to. Typically, it's going to be the lessons that they think are the most beneficial or the lessons that have already been covered in the classroom, so the student should have more familiarity to it. So one of them I will go over is the Easy Read book. All right, so like I said, I can use my cursor or my touch screen to click on the text and it will read to you. I'm not sure if you can hear it or not, but it's coming through to me. And then your other option to have it read to you is coming down here to the speak button. And if you click on this, it's gonna read the entire page. So this allows you to not have to manually go in, like I said before, and click every single text to have it read aloud. Then also you have your arrows to go to the next page, as well as the previous page. Right here this is the navigation, or not the navigation bar, but it's just all the different ways that you can view it. So I can zoom in, zoom out. I can have it fit the width of my screen, so it's very large when I go through it. I personally I try to keep it on this, so it's a vertical fit, unless I do need to zoom in and look at something. And then the panning part of it is what I had mentioned before. So it's if you're saying, oh my goodness, so the title is At the Petting Zoo. Who is the author? You could do, oops, gotta turn this on. So if I continue to do this, I can limit the view. So then the student has a better chance or a better opportunity, more of an airless learning to, oh, the author's right there. And then again, this is my favorite to get right back to the original setting is going to the vertical. Also, if you go to Go menu, this is depending on the different activities, so whether or different lesson or content area, whether it's science, it's math, or ELA, English Language Arts, you'll be giving different visual supports and different components to support that lesson and activity. So here for this reader, you have your communication board. So if you click on this, you're able to go through and it will again text to speech for you. You can also go through, and access standards. And it gives more of a connection to the standards that we're addressing. And it also, typically it has an additional activities so you can go through, and this is when I said the parent or teacher could type in what is the name of the story, and you can type it in, you can discuss that with your students, with your child, and then if, I don't remember what the name of the story is, you can easily go right back to the book. It wants me to finish my work. I'm gonna say I'm done. It will still save it for you, and then go back. Oh, that's right, At the Petting Zoo. That's the title. And again, like I had mentioned, some of the shortcuts with the keyboard, if you click on your tab button on the keyboard, I have to close the Go menu. If I click on this, then it allows it so you're not seeing it. Sometimes that helps just overall with visual clutter for our students. Other times our students, like I had mentioned, might want to access that and skip through and not participate in the whole lesson. So it kind of gives you a little more control of that. And do we have any questions, Hillary?
There was a question about whether or not this was for seniors. So I think just to clarify, so our unique curriculum is typically used for our students in grades K through age 22 who have those more moderate to severe disabilities. So if your student is attending a more of what we call a mild mod classroom or an RSP program, or they're in the general education setting, you may not have seen this, or your students may not be using it because it may not have been deemed appropriate curriculum for them and their needs. So if that helps clear up some confusion.
Great. And I'll go over one more lesson just to show you the variety. So like I had said, in your Go menu, you'll have several additional supports to support learning or kind of enhance that and enrich it with your lesson. I am going to go back to my world, going to go to home. I think the lesson I am going to pull up is number sense for addition. So in this lesson, when you go to the Go menu, you will notice that there are several supportive activities and tasks that you can complete. And I will give a brief description. So this is number sense. These are number sense 1, 2, and 3. So there are 3 different activities, different problems, all counting up to the number 10. And as you can see, if you scroll, what I like to say with about unique is you always scroll, continue to scroll, and you will be rewarded because there is a ton packed in here. And so it increases in difficulty, but at the same time, it's still customized and individualized for your student and what their instructional level is. So I'll quickly go over, I will do number sense. Oh, I already completed this one. Okay, so this is number sense 5. So for this student, they still have access to the entire lesson, but at the level that we created this mock student, our sample student, she or he is just matching. So we're still gonna give access. Parent would read, or you can read it. So we're still gonna talk about the number 5. I'm gonna count all the dogs. We're gonna say there are 5 dogs, but the student only responsible, even though they're getting access to all that language, they're getting exposure to numbers, they're only responsible for actually selecting and matching. Again, this will look different for your student depending on what their level is, and because it's individualized for instruction. So another student might actually have it blank and they are responsible for counting the 5 dogs and then selecting the correct answer for that. Any other questions? And I would encourage you, so if you have any further questions, please reach out to your case manager or your teacher, and they should be able to help you. And if they don't know the answer, they know to contact me or someone else, and we will make sure to get that training out to you.
Okay.
I will, unless there are any other questions, I will stop sharing. Oops.
Okay, so with that being said, as I've already mentioned before previously on the chat, we'll send this information to you all, and as always via email electronically. And I will, I think, be ending this webinar for now because we have finished our portion of the time and the information that was covered with unique curriculum and also behavior bits. With that, before we finish, any last closing thoughts from you all before we finish?
Thank you
Just
so
thank
much
you
for
everyone
joining
for
us.
coming.